More than a majority of Americans say they are likely to tune in tonight for the first presidential debate. And because this race, according to the polls, is so tight, tonight is pivotal for both candidates to do more than just speak to their base. Their challenge is going to be reaching the people who are undecided, perhaps looking to choose the lesser of two evils, you may say. Going into tonight's debate, there are some areas where the numbers speak louder than the words, and one particular is the candidate's age. NewsNation's Robert Sherman joining us now from Washington with a look ahead. Robert, age is an issue. We've heard so many Americans talk about it as this race heats up and continues to be tight. How much will that play into tonight's matchup?
Potentially, it's going to be highly significant here, Marni, is that, I mean, you think about the issue of age. This isn't the first time we've seen a presidential election which age came up. We always go back to 1984 when many people across the country wondered if Ronald Reagan could carry on as president for another 4 years. But at the time, he was 73. Today, former President Donald Trump is 78. President Biden is 81 years old. So that is something that people will be watching. But nevertheless, despite just 3 years of age difference, Team Trump believes that this is a significant advantage that they have, not just age as the number, but acuity. And it's something that they intend to attack. One thing that you'll be noticing tonight as you watch that debate is a new ad that will be out from the Trump campaign focusing on the president's age. Look at this.
When you think about the Joe Biden you saw in the debate, ask yourself a question. Do you think the guy who was defeated by the stairs, got taken down by his bike, lost a fight with his jacket, and regularly gets lost, makes it 4 more years in the White House?
Of course, the question, Marni, is always exactly how much do these debates matter? How much interest is there? Well, as you alluded to, polling data indicates that there's a lot of interest, with 37% of polled Americans saying that they're extremely or very likely to tune in and watch live. Somewhat likely, there's about 27%, and 35% saying not too or not at all likely to tune in. So that's over 60% of the population saying that there's a decent likelihood that they'll be tuning in to tonight's event, which just goes to show that people are keenly interested in what the candidates have to say, how they perform. We'll see how they fare.
Most important job in the world. I appreciate the keen interest. Robert, while President Biden and former President Trump will be on the stage, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would like to be on the stage, but he will not. What is his campaign saying?
Yeah, the reason that he won't be on the stage is because he is at this point not qualified to be on the ballot in enough states. It was set that you need to be on enough state ballots in order to reach 270 electoral votes. His team coming up short of that. Obviously, the Kennedy team not at all happy about this, but they intend to participate in their own way tonight. This is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had to say.
Over 70% of Americans want a different choice than Presidents Biden or Trump. But I'm not going to let them silence us. Go to therealdebate.com to watch me answer the same debate questions live. I'm going to be on that debate stage with or without their permission.
So that's his team's strategies, is that they'll have a live stream, and as questions are posed to President Biden or former President Trump, he intends to answer those same questions live in order to make his own case to the voters. Marni?
All right, Robert Sherman at the White House. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.